Chapter 1. The Haunting Shadows. As I walked into John Kirowan's study, I was lost in my own thoughts and didn't notice his visitor's tired and troubled appearance. The visitor was a big and handsome young man whom I knew well. "Hello, Kirowan," I greeted. "Hello, Gordon. It's been a while since we last saw each other. How's Evelyn?" Before he could answer, I got carried away by my excitement and said, "Listen, guys, I have something amazing to show you. I got it from a thief named Ahmed Mektub, and I paid a lot for it, but it's worth it. Look." I took out the Afghan dagger with its jewel-encrusted hilt, which had fascinated me as a collector of rare weapons. Kirowan, who was familiar with my passion for collecting, showed polite interest, but Gordon's reaction surprised us all. With a choked cry, he jumped back, knocking over a chair. He faced me with clenched fists and a pale face, saying, "Stay back, get away from me, or—" I was taken aback by his sudden change in behavior. "What's going on?" I asked, bewildered. Gordon then quickly sat back down, burying his face in his hands. I saw his shoulders trembling. I looked at him and then at Kirowan, who seemed just as puzzled as I was. "Is he drunk?" I wondered aloud. Kirowan shook his head, poured a glass of brandy, and offered it to Gordon. He took the drink eagerly and downed it like a man who hadn't had a drink in a long time. Then he composed himself and looked at us apologetically. "I'm sorry I reacted that way, O'Donnell," he said. "It was just the shock of seeing you with that knife." "Well," I replied, a bit annoyed, "I hope you didn't think I was going to stab you with it." Gordon explained, "No, I didn't actually think that. It was more like a primitive instinct, the feeling of a hunted man who expects danger from anyone." His words and the desperation in his voice sent a shiver down my spine. "What do you mean by hunted?" I asked uneasily. "You haven't committed any crimes." "Not in this life, perhaps," he muttered. I was confused, so I prodded further. "What do you mean?" "What if I am suffering for a crime committed in a previous life?" he said. I scoffed at the idea. "That's nonsense," I said dismissively. Gordon retorted, "Is it? Have you heard of my great-grandfather, Sir Richard Gordon of Argyle?" "Yes, I have," I replied, "but what does he have to do with—" Gordon interrupted. "Have you seen his portrait? Doesn't it look like me?" "Yes, it does," I admitted, "although your expression is honest and kind, unlike his, which seems sly and cruel." "He murdered his wife," Gordon revealed. "What if the theory of reincarnation is true? Why shouldn't a man pay for a crime committed in a previous life?" "You mean you think you are the reincarnation of your great-grandfather?" I asked, incredulous. "This is all so far-fetched. Are you suggesting that Evelyn, your sweet and gentle wife, might try to kill you because of some past life?" Gordon's response shocked me. "My wife," he said solemnly, "has attempted to kill me 3 times in the past week." I was speechless. I looked at Kirowan for help, but he sat quietly, his face expressionless, though his eyes gleamed with interest. The silence was broken only by the ticking of the clock. "Tell us the whole story, Gordon," Kirowan finally suggested, and his calm voice felt like a relief, cutting through the tension in the room. Chapter 2. Whispers of the Past. "You know, we've been married for less than a year," Gordon said, sounding really eager to share his story. "We've had some arguments like all couples do, but no real fights. Evelyn is the sweetest girl ever. So, about a week ago, something unusual happened. We drove up to the mountains, left the car and went picking wildflowers. At last we came to a steep slope, some 30 feet in height, and Evelyn called my attention to the flowers which grew thickly at the foot. I was trying to see if I could climb down without tearing my clothes, when I felt a violent push from behind that toppled me over. If it had been a sheer cliff, I'd have broken my neck. But since it wasn't, I ended up tumbling down, rolling and sliding. Finally, I landed at the bottom with scratches and bruises all over, and my clothes were torn to pieces. When I looked up, Evelyn seemed really scared, like she didn't mean for that to happen. "Oh, Jim," she cried, "are you hurt? How did you fall?" At first I wanted to tell her she took the joke too far, but I stopped myself. I thought maybe she accidentally bumped into me and didn't realize she pushed me down the slope. But 4 days later, something else happened. I was walking along our driveway, and I saw her coming up in the car. I stepped onto the grass to make way for her, since there's no curb along the driveway. She looked happy as she approached me and slowed down the car as if she wanted to talk to me. But then, right before she reached me, something terrible happened. Her expression suddenly changed, and without any warning she pressed down hard on the accelerator, and the car rushed towards me like a living thing. I had to jump back quickly to avoid being crushed under the wheels. The car raced across the lawn and crashed into a tree. I hurried to check on Evelyn, and thankfully she was dazed and upset but not injured. She kept saying she lost control of the car. I carried her inside the house and called for Dr. Donnelly. He checked her and said she wasn't seriously hurt, but she was feeling dazed because of the fear and shock. After about 30 minutes she started feeling better, but she refused to drive the car again. The strange thing is that she seemed more worried about me than herself. She somehow knew that she almost ran me over and got really upset when talking about it. She acted as if I should have known that she lost control of the car, but I saw her turn the steering wheel on purpose, and I'm sure she tried to hit me intentionally. Why she did that I can't understand. Only God knows. Still, I refused to let my mind follow the channel it was getting into. Evelyn had never shown any signs of being mentally weak or nervous. She was always a sensible and natural girl. But I started to think that she might sometimes have strange impulses, like when we feel the urge to jump from tall buildings, even though we'd never really do it, or when we get a sudden and unreasonable desire to harm someone, like thinking about using a gun on a friend who's sitting there smiling and unaware. Of course, we never act on these thoughts, but the impulses can still be there. So I began to believe that maybe Evelyn lacked some mental control, which made her susceptible to these unguided impulses that she couldn't control. "No way," I interrupted. "I've known her since she was a baby. If she has any of those traits, she must have developed them after marrying me." It was an unfortunate remark. Gordon caught it up with a despairing gleam in his eyes. "That's just it, since she married me. It's like a curse, a horrible curse coming from the past. I'm telling you, I was Richard Gordon, and she was Lady Elizabeth, his murdered wife." He spoke in a chilling whisper. I felt a shiver down my spine. It's terrible to witness the destruction of a once sharp and clear mind. And that's what I was sure was happening to James Gordon. I couldn't explain why or how it had come to this, but I knew he was not in his right mind. "You spoke of 3 attempts. It was John Kirowan's voice again, calm and stable amid the gathering webs of horror and unreality. "Look here." Gordon lifted his arm, drew back the sleeve, and displayed a bandage, and it seemed to hold some secret meaning that was horrifying. He continued with his story. "This morning I went into the bathroom to find my razor, but I saw Evelyn about to use it for something else, like cutting a pattern or so. Some women don't realize the difference between a razor and a knife or a pair of shears. I got a little annoyed and said, 'Evelyn, how many times have I told you not to use my razors for such things? Bring it here. I'll give you my pocket knife instead.' She came closer, holding the open razor towards me. I was about to take it from her when something inside me warned me. It was the same look in her eyes, just like the day she almost ran me over. That warning saved my life. I quickly raised my hand as she slashed at my throat with all her strength. The blade cut my arm before I grabbed her wrist. We struggled for a moment, and she fought like a wild animal, her body tense and strong. Then suddenly she went limp, and the look in her eyes changed to a strange, dazed expression. The razor slipped from her hand. I let go of her, and she stood there swaying as if she was going to faint. I went to the sink to deal with my bleeding arm, and the next thing I heard was her voice crying out. "Jim," she cried, "how did you cut yourself so terribly?" Chapter 3. A Gift of Peace. Gordon felt upset and let out a deep sigh. He said, "I think I lost control for a moment." "Please don't pretend any more, Evelyn," I said firmly. "God knows what's got into you, but you know as well as I that you've tried to kill me 3 times in the past week." Evelyn looked shocked and startled. She held her chest and stared at me with a frightened expression, as if she had seen a ghost. She didn't say anything, and honestly I can't recall the exact words I used. But when I finished talking, she just stood there looking pale and motionless, like a statue made of marble. I went to a drugstore to get my arm bandaged, and then I came here not sure what else to do. This is terrible. Either my wife is having fits of insanity. He choked on the word. No, I can't believe that. Usually her eyes are so clear and level, she seems completely sane, but whenever she gets a chance to hurt me, she acts like a temporary maniac. He clenched his fists and hit them together out of frustration and pain. But it's not insanity. I used to work in a psychopathic ward, and I've seen all kinds of mental disorders. My wife is not insane. Then what? I started to ask, but he looked at me with tired and exhausted eyes. "There's only one explanation left," he replied. "She was Elizabeth Douglas, the unfortunate bride of Richard Gordon, whom he murdered in a fit of jealousy. And now it's her seeking revenge. I believe I'm destined to die by her hands, as it was meant to be. And she—" He trailed off, bowing his head in his hands. "Just a moment." It was Kirowan again. "You mentioned a strange look in your wife's eyes. What kind of look was it? Did she seem like she was in a frenzy?" Gordon shook his head. "No, it was more like she had a blank expression. It's like all the life and intelligence just disappeared, and her eyes looked empty and dark." Kirowan nodded, then asked a seemingly unrelated question. "Do you have any enemies?" "Not that I know of," Gordon replied. "You forget Joseph Rolock," I said. "I can't picture that sophisticated and elegant man going to the trouble of physically harming you, but I have a feeling he might try to make you uncomfortable in other ways." Kirowan looked at me sharply. "Who is Joseph Rolock?" "He's a young and charming man who entered Evelyn's life and almost swept her off her feet for a while. But in the end, she chose to be with Gordon here. Rolock didn't take it well. Despite his smooth manner, he has a streak of violence and passion that he might have shown if he wasn't so lazy and indifferent." "Oh, there's nothing against Rolock," Gordon interrupted impatiently. "He must know that Evelyn never truly loved him. He only charmed her temporarily with his romantic Latin air." "Not exactly Latin, Jim," I disagreed. "Rolocker does have a foreign look, but it isn't Latin. It's almost Oriental." "Well, what does Rolocker have to do with all this?" Gordon snapped with frayed nerves. "He's been friendly ever since Evelyn and I got married. Just a week ago he sent her a ring as a peace offering and a belated wedding gift. He said that her leaving him was a bigger loss for her than it was for him, the arrogant fool." "A ring?" Kirowan suddenly seemed interested. Something serious and determined came over him. "What kind of ring?" "It's a weird one, made of copper, like a snake coiled 3 times with its tail in its mouth, and yellow jewels for eyes. I think he picked it up in Hungary." "Has he travelled a lot to Hungary?" Gordon looked surprised at the question, but replied, "Well, it seems like he's been all over the place. I thought he was the privileged son of a wealthy family. As far as I know, he never worked." "He seems like a great scholar," I added. "I've been to his apartment a few times, and he has an impressive collection of books." Gordon got up angrily, swearing, "Are we all going crazy here? I came for help, and you guys keep talking about Joseph Rolock. I'll go to Dr. Donnelly." "Wait!" Kirowan stopped him with a hand gesture. "If it's all right with you, we'll go to your house. I want to talk to your wife." Gordon nodded silently. Troubled and haunted by ugly feelings, he didn't know where else to turn, and welcomed any help he could get. Chapter 4. Dark Dreams. We drove to Gordon's house in silence. Gordon seemed lost in deep thoughts, and Kirowan appeared to be absorbed in some distant realm of understanding beyond my understanding. He sat still, his intense eyes gazing into space, not blankly, but as if he had insight into some far-off place. Though Kirowan was my closest friend, I didn't know much about his past. He entered my life unexpectedly, just like Joseph Rolock had entered Evelyn's life. I met Kirowan at the Wanderers Club, a place for wanderers, adventurers, and people who lived outside the usual paths of life. His unique abilities and vast knowledge intrigued me. I only knew that he was the rebellious younger son of an Irish aristocratic family, and that he had experienced many extraordinary things. Gordon's mention of Hungary triggered a memory. Kirowan had mentioned a part of his life in Hungary once, but only in fragments. All I knew was that he had gone through a painful grief and a terrible injustice there, but the details were unknown to me. At Gordon's house, Evelyn greeted us calmly, though I could sense the inner turmoil she was experiencing through her restrained manner. She was a slender, soft-spoken girl, and her dark eyes always held a spark of emotion. The idea that this gentle girl would try to harm her beloved husband seemed absurd to me. I began to wonder if it was James Gordon himself who had lost his sanity. Following Kirowan's lead, we tried to engage in casual small talk, as if we had casually dropped in, but I felt that Evelyn was not deceived. Our conversation felt insincere and empty. Then Kirowan spoke up. "Mrs. Gordon, that's an interesting ring you're wearing. Do you mind if I take a closer look?" "I'll have to give you my hand," she laughed. "I've been trying to get it off today, and it won't come off." She held out her slim white hand for Kirowan's inspection, but his expression remained unchanged as he observed the metal snake coiled around her finger. He did not touch it. I, too, felt a strange hatred to the dull, copperish reptile encircling the girl's fair finger. There was something unsettling about it. "It's evil-looking, isn't it?" She shivered involuntarily. "I used to like it at first, but now it makes me uncomfortable. If I can manage to remove it, I plan to return it to Joseph, Mr. Rolock." Kirowan was about to respond when the doorbell rang. Gordon was startled, and Evelyn quickly got up. "I'll answer it, Jim. I know who it is." She returned a moment later with two more friends they knew well. Dr. Donnelly, a big and friendly man with a booming voice and a sharp mind, and Bill Bain, an older and witty man. Both were close friends of the Ash family, with Dr. Donnelly even having helped deliver Evelyn into the world, and Bain was always Uncle Bill to her. "Dr. Donnelly," Evelyn said, her voice steady with effort, "I called for you and Uncle Bill for the same reason that Jim brought Mr. Kirowan and Michael. There's something we can't handle alone. It's something dark, horrifying, and dreadful." "What are you talking about, dear?" asked Dr. Donnelly. "My husband." She choked, then went on. "My husband has accused me of trying to murder him." The room fell silent, and Bain's sudden outburst interrupted the tension. His eyes blazed and his fists trembled with anger. "Young man," he shouted at Gordon, "I'll knock the living daylights." "Sit down, Bill." Donnelly's large hand forced Bain back into his chair. "No need to be rash. Please continue, my dear." "We need help. We can't handle this alone," she said. "This morning Jim's arm was badly cut. He said I did it. I don't know. I was handing him the razor, and then everything faded away. When I came to myself, he was washing his arm in the lavatory, and he accused me of trying to kill him." "Why, the young fool!" shouted Bain. "Doesn't he have enough sense to know that if you did cut him, it was an accident?" "Please, Bill, let her speak," Donnelly urged. "Evelyn, did you say you fainted? That's not like you." "I've been having fainting spells," she answered. "The first time was when we were in the mountains, and Jim fell down a cliff. We were standing on the edge. Then everything went black, and when my sight cleared, he was rolling down the slope." She shuddered at the recollection. "And then, when I lost control of the car and it crashed into the tree, you remember, Jim called you over." Dr. Donnelly nodded his head thoughtfully. I don't remember you ever having fainting spells before." "But Jim says I pushed him over the cliff," she cried hysterically. "He says I tried to run him down in the car. He says I purposely slashed him with the razor." Dr. Donnelly turned perplexedly toward the wretched Gordon. "How about it, son?" "God help me," Gordon burst out in agony. "It's true." "Evelyn," he said, his voice thick with labouring emotion, "you know I love you. I feel like a dog, but God help me, it's true. If we go on this way, I'll be a dead man, and you—" "Don't say it," she screamed. "I know you wouldn't lie to me, Jim. If you say I tried to kill you, I know I did. But I swear, Jim, I didn't do it consciously. Oh, I must be going mad. That's why my dreams have been so wild and terrifying lately." "Of what have you dreamed, Mrs. Gordon?" asked Kirowan gently. "A black thing," she muttered. "A horrible, faceless black thing that mows and mumbles and paws over me with ape-like hands. I dream of it every night, and in the daytime I try to kill the only man I ever loved. I'm going mad. Maybe I'm already crazy and don't know it." Chapter 5. Tragedy at the Hand of a Beloved. "Calm yourself, honey," said Dr. Donnelly, trying to comfort her in his matter-of-fact manner. His words seemed to soothe her, and she sighed, running her hand through her damp hair. "We'll talk this all over, and everything's going to be okay," he assured her, pulling out a thick cigar from his vest pocket. "Give me a match, honey." She began searching the table for a match, and Gordon warned urgently, "There are matches in the drawer, Evelyn." Her hand reached for the drawer, but just as she was about to open it, Gordon's expression changed drastically. He sprang up, pale and alarmed, and shouted, "No, no, don't open that drawer, don't—" His urgent cry seemed to startle her, and she froze in place, as if sensing something inside the drawer. Her expression shifted, and the intelligence in her eyes vanished, leaving them blank and empty, as Gordon had described. It was a fitting description. Her beautiful eyes became hollow and devoid of life. Out of the drawer she pulled a pistol and fired it point blank. Gordon groaned and fell, blood streaming from his head. She stared down at the smoking gun in her hand for a fleeting moment, as if awakening from a terrible dream. Then a wild scream of agony burst from her lips. "Oh God, I've killed him! Jim! Jim!" Before any of us could react, she rushed to him, dropping to her knees and cradling his bloody head in her arms, sobbing with a heart-wrenching mix of horror and grief. The emptiness had vanished from her eyes, replaced by a deep anguish and terror. I moved towards my injured friend, along with Donnelly and Bain, but Kirowan caught my arm. His face, once stoic, now displayed a controlled fury. "Leave him to them," he growled. "We are hunters, not healers. Lead me to the house of Joseph Rolock." I didn't question him, and we sped to Rolock's apartment in Gordon's car. I took the wheel, and the grim expression on Kirowan's face compelled me to drive recklessly through the traffic. The entire situation felt like a tragic drama racing towards a terrible climax. I brought the car to an abrupt stop in front of Rolock's building, a place known for its peculiar architecture, with Rolock's residence perched high above the city. The elevator seemed to mirror Kirowan's sense of urgency, shooting us upward with haste. I pointed to Rolock's door, and without waiting, Kirowan barged in without knocking. I followed closely behind him. Chapter 6. Thirst for Vengeance. Rolock, clad in a dressing gown adorned with embroidered dragons, was lounging on a divan, smoking a cigarette. Upon hearing our news, he sat up, knocking over a half-filled wine-glass on the table beside him. Before Kirowan could speak, I blurted out the information. "James Gordon has been shot." "Shot? When? When did she kill him?" Rolock's response startled me. "She?" I questioned, puzzled by his immediate assumption. Kirowan pushed me aside with a determined hand, and the two men locked eyes. There was an undeniable tension between them, as if they were old enemies with a long-standing fight. "John Kirowan," Rolock murmured. "You remember me, Joseph Rolock?" Kirowan's voice was steady, but laced with an iron resolve. There was a history between them, a dark and haunting past that Kirowan now intended to confront. Kirowan continued, his words measured and deliberate. Years ago in Budapest, we explored the forbidden occult arts together. But when I saw the depths to which you were sinking, I turned away. I refused to embrace the dark and demonic practices that consumed you. You hated me for that, and using your vile arts, you manipulated the woman I loved, turning her against me and dragging her into your own wretched darkness. I should have killed you with my own hands then, Joseph Vrolok, but your dark magic protected you. However, you have finally trapped yourself. You sought to destroy James Gordon and his wife because she escaped your grasp, Kirowan accused. Vrolok chuckled dismissively, claiming innocence. You are mad. I haven't seen the Gordons for weeks. Why should I be blamed for their troubles? Kirowan's anger flared. Liar as always. Your reaction when O'Donnell told you about Gordon being shot spoke volumes. When did she kill him? You were expecting to hear that Evelyn had murdered her husband. Your psychic powers had foretold the impending climax. You eagerly awaited news of the success of your wicked scheme, but I did not need your slip of the tongue to recognize your handiwork. I knew the moment I saw the ring on Evelyn Gordon's finger, the ring she couldn't remove, the ancient and accursed ring. I knew it was your ring, and I knew how you came to possess it through unspeakable rituals. I knew its power. Once she put it on her finger, she was under your control. You summoned the black elemental spirit, the haunter of the ring, from the depths of night and the ages. In this accursed chamber you performed rituals to displace Evelyn Gordon's soul from her body, allowing that godless sprite from beyond the human universe to take possession. Her purity and her love for her husband were too strong for the monster to gain complete and permanent control over her body. It could only briefly drive her own spirit away and inhabit her form, but that was enough for your sinister plans. However, you have brought destruction upon yourself through your thirst for vengeance. Chapter 7. The Black Shadow. Kirowan's voice rose to a high scream. What was the price demanded by the monster you drew from the pits? Joseph Vrolok is not the only man to have learned forbidden secrets. After I left Hungary, a broken man, I took up again the study of the black arts to trap you, you cringing serpent. I explored the ruins of Zimbabwe, the lost mountains of Inner Mongolia. I learned of the black spirit that deals death by the hand of a beloved one and is controlled by a master of magic. But Joseph Vrolok, you are not an expert. You have not the power to control the monster you have invoked, and you have sold your soul. The Hungarian tore at his collar as if it were a strangling trick. His face had changed, as if a mask had dropped away. He looked much older. You lie, he panted. I did not promise him my soul. I do not lie. Kirowan's scream was shocking in its wild triumph. I know the price a man must pay for calling forth the nameless shape that roams the gulfs of darkness. Look! There in the corner behind you, a nameless, sightless thing is laughing, is mocking you. It has fulfilled its bargain, and it has come for you, Joseph Vrolok. No! Shrieked Vrolok, tearing his limp collar away from his sweating throat. His composure had crumpled. I tell you it was not my soul. I promised it a soul, but not my soul. He must take the soul of the girl, or of James Gordon. Fool! Roared Kirowan. Do you think he could take the souls of innocents, that he would not know they were beyond his reach? The girl and the youth he could kill, their souls were not his to take or yours to give. But your black soul is not beyond his reach, and he will have his wage. Look, he is materializing behind you. He is growing out of thin air. Was it the hypnosis inspired by Kirowan's burning words that caused me to shudder and grow cold, to feel an icy chill that was not of earth infuse the room? Was it a trick of light and shadow that seemed to produce the effect of a black shadow on the wall behind the Hungarian? Vrolok had not turned. He stared at Kirowan with eyes starting from his head, hair standing stiffly on his scalp, sweat dripping from his furious face. Kirowan's cry started shudders down my spine. "Look behind you, fool! I see him! He has come! He is here! His misshapen paws reach for you!" And then at last Vrolok turned, with a terrible shriek, throwing his arms above his head in a gesture of wild despair. And for one brain-shattering instant he was blotted out by a great black shadow. Kirowan grasped my arm and we fled from that accursed chamber, blind with horror. Chapter 8. A Fair Compensation. The same newspaper that reported on James Gordon's slight scalp wound caused by the accidental pistol discharge in his home also had a headline about the sudden death of Joseph Vrolok, a wealthy and eccentric clubman in his luxurious apartment, apparently from heart failure. During breakfast, I read the news while trying to steady my hands as I drank cup after cup of black coffee. Kirowan, seated across from me, seemed equally unsettled and lost in his thoughts, as if he were wandering through distant memories. Gordon's theory of reincarnation was already wild, but the actual events were even more incredible. Tell me, Kirowan, was that last scene the result of hypnosis? Did the power of your words make me see a black horror materialize and snatch Joseph Vrolok's soul from his body? I asked, seeking some explanation. Kirowan shook his head. No human hypnotism could have struck that black-hearted devil dead on the floor. There are beings beyond the understanding of ordinary humanity, foul shapes of transcosmic evil. It was one of those beings with whom Vrolok dealt. "But how could it claim his soul?" I persisted. "If such an awful bargain was made, it had not fulfilled its part, as James Gordon was not dead but only knocked unconscious." "Vrolok didn't know that," Kirowan replied. "He believed Gordon to be dead, and I convinced him that he himself had been trapped and was doomed." In his discouraged state, he became an easy prey for the creature he had summoned. It had been waiting for a moment of weakness on his part. The powers of darkness never play fair with human beings. Those who experiment in such affairs are always cheated in the end. "It's all like a maddening nightmare," I muttered. "But it seems you, in a way, brought about Vrolok's death." "It's a small recompense for what he did to another girl years ago in a distant land," Kirowan replied calmly. "Now Evelyn Gordon is safe, and that brings some measure of satisfaction."